Good afternoon, or whatever day of time it is. It is I, T-REXMACHINEGUN. Today I will be starting a new ESO retrospective series looking at every dungeon, trial, and or arena in this game. Today I will be starting with Fungal Grotto, and then after Fungal Grotto 2. Right out here, outside of Fungal Grotto, you'll notice that it's quite lush and green, as to the opposite of the rest of Stone Falls, which is quite barren, but it does have grasses and stuff, where this area is quite lush in comparison. There's a random soul gem in front that you could take. As we enter Stone Falls, you'll see that it is a cavern, of course, and you'll notice a bunch of spider cultists around us. Now, the main mission of Fungal Grotto is to help these spider cultists get to an ancient shrine that was built by the Chimer that was left here for millennia. As you'll notice, I'm walking around, talking to the NPCs. But there's also a second story that technically is being told in this dungeon. It is semi-part of the quest, as it has to relate to the bosses and the NPCs you'll be fighting in this place. But you'll notice that these spider cultists are just here waiting for us because they needed help with this. As I'm looking around, you should have noticed at the end, you'll see a bunch of, what are they called? Goblins. These goblins we have to kill. I am using a somewhat mediocre sorcerer build in this because, I don't know, I felt like using something easy that would show off the dungeon in itself, since this guy doesn't do too much damage. As we're going through, you'll notice that it's, as I said, quite lush and green in comparison to the rest of Stone Falls. And in the cage to our right here, you'll notice that there's a drake, as they're called, crustacean creatures that you can find all across Tamriel and the rest of the Elder Scrolls series. So all you need to do is just take out these goblins, and then across the little waterway here, there's more goblins, and then there's our first boss. This guy is, what's his name? Tazag the Packmaster. He commands the Draugs that are not the Draugs, the Durzogs, which are like weird wolf, lizard, dog creatures that inhabit many of the Morrowind and Dark Elf lands in this game. This boss is quite easy, as it is one of the bosses in one of the earliest dungeons you unlock in this game, which you unlock at the level 10 along with Banished Cells 1 and I said Banished Cells. Ugh. What's the other one? Darkshade Caverns. Not Darkshade Caverns. Spindle Clutch. Jesus Christ, I can't remember anything. But you'll notice that there was another dreg in a cage in this room. These goblins are fighting a war against the dreg that are in later areas of this dungeon. Here they have them kept in cages, and here's the big room with all the rest of the goblins with their leader. What we need to do is kill all of these goblins, and then we fight the boss. You'll notice I am a vampire, which normally I wouldn't recommend bringing to anything because they're not really beneficial to anything. Plus, they take more fire damage, and nearly every dungeon, trial, and arena in this game has some sort of fire damage. So it's actually negative to be a vampire, at least in PvE. PvP, I don't really know. You could say they're quite good in PvP. This boss is quite easy. On Vet, though, he can prove to be a little challenging for beginners that are getting into the stuff that really haven't experienced anything. But he shouldn't be too bad. His main attack, which is that heavy that just happened, that's the only attack that you should really worry about. He does have like an AoE beam that he's doing to me right now. That can be dangerous, but it's nothing you should worry about. There's another heavy. Make sure to block your heavies in everything you do, or roll dodge them depending on what it is that is attacking you. As you can see, I am using a monster set from a later dungeon called Vaults of Madness, which I will talk about later in this series. After you kill the goblin, if you have the quest, you'll be coming up here to put his head on a spike, and after you do this, the goblins will now follow you as you killed their leader, and as part of goblin culture, if you are the one who kills their chieftain, you become the leader of that clan of goblins. And so, technically, I am the new chieftain of the goblins. Now, we are running along, and when we come out, you'll notice there are goblins gathered up to go to war against the dregs. And across the waterway that'll be there, you'll see 3 dregs. Dregs are quite powerful creatures on their own, so we need numbers to take care of them. But because this is only on normal, I just kill them with ease. On vet, they are not difficult at all, unless you are a beginner that really has no experience in this game. Over here you can see the rest of the dungeon. To our right you can see the brood mother of the dreg. Down to the left right there you'll see a crab that serves them, and in the back will be the final boss, the Dreg King. With us, the goblins will join us. The goblins can die, you can heal them. There's no real point to do it, but it is nice to keep them alive as it furthers the story of this place. The secret story with you helping the goblins. Whereas the spider cultists don't help you at all, and they just stand behind waiting for you to kill everything. You will if you haven't noticed, there is some ancient Heimer and Dunmer architecture here. This boss is the broodmother and is the one who gives birth to the rest of the dreg, so killing her is quite good. At least story-wise. Otherwise, mechanically, quite the easy boss, nothing really too difficult. On vet, she can be difficult for a tank that doesn't know that's brand new, as she does do some mean, powerful, heavy attacks, and her claw attack, the rapid claw attack at least, can be quite deadly. Because I didn't help the goblins were easily overpowered by the dregs, which are fierce creatures, at least in the lore, as they used to have major kingdoms that spanned all across Nirn, the planet in which the Elder Scrolls games take place on. Now we come across the 4th boss in this. It is just a crab. I guess the crabs serve the dregs, and this one spawns more crabs. It's sort of like a brood mother for the crabs. It's very easy, nothing really to worry about on vet, unless if you don't have the DPS, then swarm of crabs I guess can cause issues, but regardless, even if you're brand new, you should have no problem taking care of them, because all you need to do is just AoE them down. After killing it, we come into the final area, which is where the final boss is. Krog the Dreg King. Drow, depending on how you pronounce it. Now, on Veteran, after you kill the boss, every dungeon at least will give you a monster set, which is a 2-piece item set that you can get that will do something beneficial. At the end of the dungeon, or at the end of the video, towards the end of the video, I will be explaining what all the sets do and how effective they are historically and today. Most of them, though, are pretty bad. Now, this boss is actually kind of dangerous, even today, for some people, because his AoE lightning attack that he just did will one-shot at least a majority of casual players and people that really have no experience doing this stuff. His attack is a lightning claw attack, which he's doing now. That can be very deadly, along with his heavy attack, which may unexpectedly one-shot you if you do not have enough resistance or health. On vet, at least. Normal, you should never really have problems, even if you are new. On vet is where everything becomes difficult. After completing this, the spider cultists come to the shrine, and you can turn in your quest, and then they'll give you a reward. Then you can leave, but they really don't want you to stick around. As this lady is saying, why so secretive? Apparently our dull minds cannot comprehend the knowledge that is in there. And it is quite bad, the knowledge in there, as you'll see when I do Fungal Grotto 2 after this. That'll come out probably sometime later this week. Now we're just taking a look back at the dungeon, looking at all the scenery. What you should do, though, is just leave the instance, or just run through back to leave the entrance. I am just going to go here to leave the instance, which, if you didn't know, you could do that. Which it will teleport us outside of the dungeon, and I will go over the sets that are in this dungeon real quick, giving a brief description of how good they are, and what applications you can use them in for today. The first one we got Drow King Slayer. Its 2 through 4 piece bonuses are actually quite good, but its 5th piece, which gives you major brutality and sorcery at all times, and when you kill an enemy you get major expedition for 8 seconds, which increases your movement speed. It is quite good, but it's not something you'd use because the buffs that you get from it, you can get from a majority of other things in this game. Spider Cultist is okay, but you'd only use it on a Destruction Staff build, and it's not very good for overall damage. On a beginner, though, it is amazing. Now, Viper. Viper Sting is actually decent. It is a very good beginner stamina DPS set because of its poison. Now, Krog's is really good, depending on what your build is. If you're a stamina DPS, then it'll be quite effective because of its 1 piece, where it gives you extra penetration, because penetration is really necessary on stamina DPS builds, because they don't have that extra penetration that Magicka builds typically have because of the line armor, as it gives you more penetration. Well, that was my little retrospective into that dungeon. This is my first video, like audio capturing, so if I sounded nervous, it's because I somewhat am, as this is my first video. But please do like and subscribe, and leave any comments below. Have a good day. I am out.